Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Kakoma, for that kind introduction. Excellencies, dear colleagues, dear friends, it's incredible to see so many familiar faces, and it is my distinct pleasure to be able to welcome you to COP28 and to the United Arab Emirates, as well as this flagship event of relief, recovery, and peace day, the first in the COP process. It is moreover an honor to join such a remarkable constellation of governments, international and regional organizations, and development, humanitarian, peace-building, and climate actors. Our presence here today sends a clear message that the nexus of climate, humanitarian, and peace and security issues must be on the political agenda at every COP. It is also a message crystallized in the Climate Relief, Recovery and Peace Declaration, our anchor for this afternoon. This is a joint product representing inputs from hundreds of stakeholders who live and work in vulnerable settings facing fragility, conflict, or severe humanitarian needs. I'm pleased to announce that over 70 countries and 40 organizations have already endorsed this. And I'm also pleased that, as we will hear shortly, this is accompanied by an initial set of actions from signatories, what we are calling a package of solutions to immediately operationalize the objective. It is also no coincidence that this first Relief, Recovery and Peace Day coincides with the COP process's first Health Day, or that these days open COP28's 2-week program. We need a human face on climate change. We as decision makers, practitioners, and UNFCCC negotiators must always have at the front of our minds whom we are here for, and why we must raise ambition every year on adaptation, loss and damage, 1.5 degrees, and finance. When we commenced preparations for our presidency, we took the global stocktake as our guiding star. What are the gaps in implementation of the Paris Agreement, and what are the solutions we must invest in to fill them? What we heard was unequivocal. Our current system is leaving people behind, especially women, people of determination, children, and youth in LDCs and in SIDS. These people are notably located in the areas that are also most vulnerable to climate change and the least able to cope with its impacts. The long-term humanitarian emergencies, the security crises, the disappearing islands, the places where climate finance fears to tread. In these settings, per capita climate finance is typically 5 and sometimes 80 times less than non-fragile settings. In many cases, humanitarian actors who are meant to be the last resort become the only resort. Over the last year, stakeholders, especially those in this room, have repeatedly flagged this gap as the blind spot of the climate sphere. We cannot have a meaningful response to the global stocktake without acknowledging it. At the same time, we know we cannot treat climate in isolation from man-made choices around policy or conflict and then consider that our work is done. And we also know the broader scientific context. Climate-related displacement and tension are accelerating because we are failing on greenhouse gas emissions. A just and accelerated energy transition is therefore one of the greatest contributions we can make to highly vulnerable communities. But in these consultations on fragile and vulnerable settings, we also heard a resounding message of optimism. climate action in the most challenging operational circumstances actually works. We've delivered, and we can deliver programs in the midst of drought, instability, conflict, and sea level rise. There is a growing track record of implementing resilient food and water systems, renewable energy, enhanced social protection mechanisms, and early warnings with anticipatory action. The returns on these actions are second to none. The declaration and package of solutions we are collectively launching today is one step toward realizing this potential. It unites all of us from the peace, development, climate, and humanitarian sectors around a shared set of objectives focused on increased resourcing, access to finance, conflict sensitivity, enhanced risk appetite, and governments and local actors' capacity to effectively absorb finance. We will hear today from diverse speakers about how the Declaration's objectives can be achieved and what the next level of ambition can and must look like. The UAE and the COP presidency are committed to this work stream and are confident that with even more partners and resources on board in COPs to come, a climate-resilient, more peaceful future is possible. While this is the first Relief, Recovery and Peace Day, let it also be the inaugural one. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. Thank you.